Welcome to tonight's Yin Yoga session. And tonight we're exploring the element of metal. And we've talked about this characteristic of metal before when we did the last metal session. But just a reminder that when we're talking about metal, it's not talking about the metal that you can see around you, like I was going to put my finger up but changed my mind. The ring that I'm wearing here, it's not that the metal that we've already mined out of the ground. We're talking about the metal that's still underneath the ground. So it's kind of like even going deeper than an earth practice and connecting with that element of metal as it comes in its natural form, like deep down inside the earth. So the energetic characteristics of the metal element are to do with letting go. So grief and loss can be associated with this element, or also just our ability to be able to cope with impermanence and therefore change. And there's been so much of that in our world, and as we were those of us who are on the call live, we're just having a discussion about, are the borders open, are the borders not open, is this happening? Like, things just change so often at the moment that it's actually a little bit difficult to keep up. And so this element is that really deep, beyond the earth, grounding kind of connection, so that maybe we can feel a little more grounded and a little less challenged by the daily changing nature of our life at this point of time. So the two energy lines that we're going to be exploring in the body today, and the organs associated with those lines, the lungs and the large intestine. So not surprising given the connection of this element with letting go, large intestine and lungs. So a lot of concentration in this element actually on the exhale. So I'm going to give you a lot of cueing about concentrating on that letting go from the space of the lungs, so really exhaling the breath. And I won't be giving you cueing about letting go in your large intestine, but that might be something that might happen for you if you go deep into this practice. So where these energy lines are located on the body, the lung, not surprisingly, starts up here. And I was playing around with this, feeling into this energy line myself earlier this evening. And I don't know if you want to push on this part of your body just here. And I found some spots on my chest that are quite tender. So you might notice that for yourself, you might not. So this is the starting point of the lung meridian, and then it runs down the arm and out into the thumb. And the large intestine comes on the other side of the arm. So it's starting at the second finger, the index finger, coming up the outside of the arm. It runs across the shoulder, comes up here and around into the side of the nose here. And just in that soft area on either side of the nose, that kind of sinus point there. So, oh, that sounded extremely Australian, your sinus point. So also the large intestine line has a connector down the outside of the body and through the hip. So we are going to do some hip opening postures this evening as well. So some stuff with the upper body and the arms and the space of the front of the chest, and also outside hip space, because not only is that energy line running through there, but as we know, that's also a place where, especially as women, we store a lot of emotions and yeah, stuff that needs to be let go of. So I'm just going to move back to my position on the mat, and if you can just find yourself in a comfortable seat, and we'll start our practice together. So comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you. It might be that your legs are crossed, or you might have your legs out straight, or you might be sitting on the edge of your bed, or wherever is comfortable for you. And that whole time I was talking, I was sitting with this leg in front, and so I'm just going to switch those over. So if you've been sitting cross-legged for a little while already, you might like to switch your legs over just to change the sensation that you're already experiencing in the hips. I'm sitting up on a folded blanket. You might like to sit with your sit bones directly onto the earth, or on a bolster or cushion, whatever feels good for you. But coming into that position that feels comfortable for you and enables you to feel that length in your spine. So tailbone to the crown of the head. If you want to roll your shoulders up towards the ears and back and down so that you feel an opening across that heart center and a dropping down of those shoulders away from the ears. I kind of have a tendency to wiggle them a little bit to sort of give them a permission to drop down away from my ears. And then your hands can be anywhere that feels comfortable for you and allows those shoulders to feel down away from the ears. Palms can be up or down. Also, whatever feels comfortable for you in this moment. No right or wrong, just whatever feels good for your body. And then once you've found your seat, closing down the eyes, if that feels okay for you. Otherwise, you can just take a soft gaze, no problem. And then when you close down the eyes, the intention is to bring our awareness inwards. So as we do that, just already starting to notice your breath and not changing it or adjusting it in any way right now. And that's difficult not to change it when we just bring our awareness to it. We already have this sense of wanting to change or move it in some way. But just notice if you can allow your breath to just be and pay attention to how it's moving in your body. Is your chest rising and falling? Is your belly rising and falling? Is your breath short and sharp, or is it already long and deep? Just notice, not judging the breath in any way. Just notice how it's moving. Notice if you're breathing in and out through the nose or through the mouth. And if it feels okay for you, start to take in some deeper inhales, expanding through the belly and up into the chest and into the collarbones. And then exhaling in the opposite direction, feeling the collarbones, the chest, and then the belly contract. So notice if you can, make your breath a 3-part breath. Fully inhaling and completely exhaling. When you exhale, notice if you can really exhale all the final amount of breath that's held in the body, and let the inhale almost become like it's automatic. Don't have to think about it, because there's a sense that there's no air left from the inhale. From the exhale, that inhale immediately draws in. Notice if you can experience that sensation. If you can't, it's totally okay. But just experience that if you can and notice. after your next complete exhale, just bring your hands down either side of the body, touching the fingertips to the mat. And just in this position, pay attention to your breath now. And notice if you allow your breath to return to its regular pattern, if it's already shifted and moved from how your breath was moving at the beginning of the class. Just notice. Maybe you're already starting to breathe a little deeper and a little slower, or maybe not, also okay. Turning the palms over, on your next inhale, raise these palms up towards the sky. And if it feels good, touch the fingertips together. Otherwise, you can keep them shoulder width apart. And then as you exhale, draw these hands down towards the heart center. And then with your own breath, as you inhale, push those fingertips up towards the sky. And as you exhale, open up, really stretching those fingers out and bringing those fingertips down towards the earth. Turning the whole arm over all the way from the shoulder. Inhale and come up. And open your eyes and look up if that feels good for you. And exhaling, hands to those heart center. Only bring those fingertips to touch above the head if that feels okay for you. Continue this movement for a few more breaths. I'm going to allow you lots of silence tonight. So as I allow silence, just notice what arises for you. Work with your inhale and your exhale. Notice if there's a point in this sequence that you start to hold your breath and constrict your breath. And notice if you could move in a way that didn't cause you to constrict your breath, but to allow your breath to flow in and out as you move. The next time your hands are down at your heart center, just take a moment to bow the head to the heart. And you might want to set yourself an intention for your practice this evening. It might be that you want to keep your focus on your exhale. It might be that you want to dedicate this practice to something or someone. Whatever arises for you in terms of your intention for your practice this evening. Beautiful. Allow those hands to come down. And we'll come into our first yin shape for this evening, which is open wing. So if you're familiar with open wing and you want to move yourself immediately into the practice, please go ahead. If you want some instruction of what open wing looks like, feel free to hang out with me here for a moment. So for open wing, I'm going to need my bolster, or I like to use my bolster, but it's not compulsory. So I'm going to open this part of the body here, so the front side of my shoulder. So to do that, I'm going to bring this arm out towards the side. So it's coming directly straight out from like that's what it's doing on the other side. And then I'm going to open up onto that shoulder and drop this top leg onto my bolster. But I could also just drop that top leg onto the ground. If I want to, I can bend this leg a little bit. And then because I want to be nice and open through the lung line, I want to bring this arm up and behind me. And I like to tuck it into the waistband of my leggings so that it helps that top arm not to, and that top shoulder not to flop forward, but to stay nice and open. So find your open wing. And we employ the 3 principles of Yin Yoga. We come to stillness once we've found our position. We allow time. And then we want to disengage muscle. So notice anywhere that you are holding tension, that in this position you can release and let go. In Yin Yoga, we want to access the fascia of our body, our connective tissue. In a physical sense, we want to allow more liquid and fluid to run into these parts of the body. In an emotional sense, we want to notice what's happening in the space. Maybe pouring something in or allowing something to be released. So in this position, you might want to concentrate on your exhale. So notice that release of breath and see if you can completely exhale your breath, allowing that inhale to draw up and in. Notice what you feel. A few more breaths here. When your next exhale is complete, take your time and come to your open wing on the other side. So really looking to feel sensation on the inside of the shoulder, on this lung energy line here. Remember those points that we touched at the beginning of the class, and maybe wanting to feel that arm so open in your open wing that you feel the activation of energy in those points there. So find your open wing on the other side. Remember, you might like to use your bolster to support that top leg or to open up that hip a little more. And remember, bringing the top arm up and behind you, maybe tucking it into your leggings or your pajamas or whatever it is that you're wearing, so that you can feel that nice wide opening across your chest and in that whole lung line. So once you've found your open wing on the other side, stillness. We allow time. And then we want to disengage muscle. So relax those muscles around the eyes, the jaw, and especially around the chest, the heart space. Notice your inhale, but pay particular attention to your exhale. Notice what happens when you completely release that breath. Pay attention to how you feel. Notice what arises for you when there's space in the practice. How does that feel for you? Do you already start to wonder about the million things that you have to do when you complete this class? Do you think about what's been happening today? And not to judge those thoughts as they arise, but just to notice them And bring your awareness back to your breath, especially to that exhale. So that the thoughts can chirp away like birds, commenting, having a little commentary, but just releasing back to the breath every time a thought arises. This is what mindfulness is. Noting and bringing your awareness back to your breath. On your next exhale, completely release yourself down onto your belly. Release yourself all the way down to the floor. You can use your hands to make a pillow, turning the head to one side, or you can run those arms either side of the body. And as you're in this position of surrender to the earth, remember that this is the element of metal. Notice if you can feel that connection and that draw down deep within the earth, where the elements of metal are hidden, those hidden gems of metal beneath the earth. Notice what you feel. Nothing to do in your rebound. Relax, let go. Nice. Our next yin posture for this class is Sphynx. Many of you are familiar with this posture. So coming into the version of Sphynx, if you're familiar, if you need a little instruction, the traditional alignment of Sphynx is elbow underneath shoulder. And the reason why this is the traditional alignment is that it allows you just to hang out on your bones. No pressure on the muscle. So if it feels okay for you, especially in the lower back, to be hanging out here today, even if it doesn't quite feel like you have enough sensation here, we're not focusing on the kidney space right now. We're focusing on the lung space. So hang here to allow yourself to have a nice experience with your lungs. So you might want to widen out the elbows just a little bit to have a little more feeling of width across the front of the body. So really, traditional alignment also fingers facing forwards, nice and wide. And then actually just pushing up through those elbows a little bit tonight. If this is too much sensation for you, you know you can bring your elbows forward, yeah? So to release what's going on with that lower back. So even though our focus isn't on that lower back, just make sure that those glutes are relaxed. You might want to rock a little side to side and release down through that kidney space, kidneys, either side of the spine, just below the ribs. But let's bring all our focus and awareness to this energy line, arms and up into the actual space of the lungs itself. So notice the alignment of the neck, making a nice curve between the tailbone and the crown of the head. And then bring your focus to your breath. Feel your inhale, swelling the whole space of the lungs. And then exhaling completely. Feel that let go. Take your time. Notice if there's anywhere that you're holding tension and you want to release it. Muscles around the eyes, jaw, belly. Notice if you've clenched onto your glutes again, release them. Relax all the way down the legs, right out through the toes. Notice your breath. Feel that inhale expanding through the lungs. Notice that complete exhale. Notice what's arising in your mind, noting those thoughts, allowing them to drift on by and bringing your awareness back to your breath. Notice what you feel. Couple more breaths here. Stay with your exhale. When your next exhale is complete, release yourself down to the earth. You can create a pillow with those hands, or you can run those arms down the side of the body, completely releasing down through the earth to that element of metal beneath the surface of the earth. Surrender. Feel that solid nature of the earth and the metal within it. Notice it holding you. As everything else around is shifting, changing, moving. Notice this sense of being held. Nice. Bring those hands either side of the shoulders and push yourself up to a seated position. We're going to spend a little time now working on the hips, and we're going to do 3 postures on one side for one of our hips, and then 3, then take a rest, and then do 3 on the other side. So you can choose whichever side you want to start to work with. So the first asana or posture we will do for the hip is just in a cross-legged position. So find a comfortable cross-legged position, and I'm seated up on my blanket again, but if it feels good for you to be on the earth, be on the earth, or be on your cushion, or whatever it is that feels good for you. I like to be on my blanket. It gives me a little more height and a little more room to move when I move forward. So I'm going to start working on this hip. And so the hip that I want to work on, I want to move my torso away from that hip. So I'm facing towards the other leg. And also you will notice on the hip that I'm working on, my foot is here in the front. It's not buried up underneath my leg. It's out here in front. But you want to play with that a little bit within your own body, because we're looking for sensation in this outer hip. So we're going to roll the torso away from the place we're looking for sensation, and then we're going to move forward any amount. So this is where I mean you can play around with the position of this foot, because it might like to be further away or it might like to be closer for you to feel sensation on this outer hip. Now remember, we're going to work with 3 postures here. So you don't want to be at 100% sensation on this first posture, yeah? So find a place where you feel sensation here, and you want to really also feel into whether or not you're feeling too much sensation in your lower back rather than in your hip. And adjust, maybe come up, lengthen up through the torso and fold forward with a nice long spine to find that edge on the hip before you might want to roll forward a little bit on those shoulders. Now remember, in Yin Yoga we're working with gravity, so you notice I've put my elbow onto my knee, but that's a protective mechanism from my side. Better if I surrender like this, because over time gravity can work me closer to the ground. But if tonight you're feeling like you need a little more support, feel free to put your elbow on your knee. Kindness towards yourself, super important, yeah? So once you've found this nice sensation arising in this outer hip, let's hang out here for a few breaths. Remember, focusing on this exhale. You might want to imagine that breath coming all the way down into that hip, so drawing prana, life force, chi, all the way down into that hip where that sensation is, and as you fully exhale that breath, releasing that tension. Notice what you feel. Now using your hands on the earth, bring that torso back up. Now this leg that's bent and in the front, we're going to continue to work on the same hip. We're not swapping sides yet. So straighten the other leg. So I'm straightening that leg out in front of me, activating those toes up towards my belly. And then I'm going to position this bent leg again so I can feel maybe into a different area of that hip. And for me, I like to pop this foot up onto my thigh so that I can really feel into that space. If I just lean forward, even for me, just a fraction, the increased sensation in this hip is quite strong. So if that feels okay for you, otherwise leaving this foot down here and again moving around with the torso so that you can feel the sensation here. I just know for me personally it's much stronger if I'm up here, but notice not to keep the ankle dropping down here, but putting the whole foot over the edge of the thigh there. So once you've found the position that serves you, where you can feel this beautiful sensation in that outer hip. So you might want to close the eyes, relax the muscles around the eyes, relax the jaw. And just releasing tension anywhere that it's possible for you to release right now. So you might notice those toes that are out straight now, you might want to relax them, the foot that's hanging over or attached to the inner calf, just relaxing there. And then noticing the sensation that's arising in the body. And notice if you can use your breath to release some of that sensation. Inhale and allow your breath to move in areas where you feel tension, and completely exhale the breath. Notice if those shoulders are scrunched up towards the ears. Allow them to release. Relax. Just a couple more breaths here. Notice if you can stay with the sensation. How much can you allow yourself to feel? Beautiful. Use the hands. Just release that leg slightly if it's on the top. Leave it bent because we're going to move directly into the next posture. So for those of you who are familiar with sleeping swan, this will continue to be the bent leg in your swan. So just dropping that straight leg round behind you and coming into your swan. And maybe in your swan today, you want to have an upright body so you can really feel, so don't make your swan sleep, but keep your body upright. Remember, the sensation is in this outer hip. For those of you who find this posture like a little challenging, we come into the lying, the inverted version, the upside down version of this posture. So exactly the same thing. It might be that you have your foot on the floor and your knee bent, or you might reach up, grab hold of that foot, or straighten up the leg. You're looking for sensation in this outer hip. So find your version of the posture. And I'm coming into swan with you so I don't leave you there for too long. So remember, looking for sensation in that outer hip, same hip. Ooh. Increasing sensation now. Notice if you can allow yourself to feel. It's just sensation. Can you move towards it rather than away from it? Allow yourself to feel. Notice your inhale and complete exhale. And you release through the groin, allowing yourself to really feel sensation in that outer hip. Breathe. Couple more breaths here. Beautiful. Now releasing all the way down onto the earth. If you're in the inverted version, you might come onto your back. If you're in if you're in swan, come down onto the belly. Using those hands to make a pillow or running those hands either side of the body. And just taking a moment to release down, down, down to those precious elements of metal under the earth. And take your time to notice the sensations that you might be experiencing in one side of your body in comparison to the other side of the body. Just notice. If it feels good for you, you can rock your hips a little bit from side to side, just releasing any remaining tension there, moving the energy around a little bit. And then when you're ready, without too much trepidation or fear of what's to come, let's move to the other side. Halfway. So remember, we're starting from a seated position. So legs are crossed. I'm sitting up on my folded blanket. And this time I've got my other foot in front, and I'm going to turn away from the leg where I want to feel the sensation in the hip. And I'm going to find that place where I feel that sensation. And remember, we might like to move this foot closer to the body or further away. And remember that for you, it might be different on one side than the other. Many of us, most of us don't have hips that are completely symmetrical. And I know that my left hip is much more accessible than my right. And so I need it in a different position so I can feel that sensation in that outer hip. So find that place. And you want to be not completely on your 100% edge, right? So come to a place that feels like it's kind, but at the same time you can feel the sensation. Once you're there, closing down the eyes, relaxing the muscles around the jaw, bringing your awareness to your breath and really noticing that exhale. Release, let go. If the mind's racing ahead and already thinking, oh my gosh, I've got 2 more postures here, try to notice if you can, rather than be anxious about that, focus on this present moment. Where's your breath? What's arising for you? Even notice the noticing. When you're ready, using your hands to bring your torso back up. And we're going to leave the forward leg bent and bring the leg that's behind out straight. Activate those toes up towards the belly to start with. And then bringing this bent leg into whatever position feels good for you. If you want to bring it up onto the thigh, you can, but remember, protect that ankle. Or if you want to have it quite close up near the groin on this side or down near the knee, whatever feels good for you, but be careful not to place it directly on the knee. Yeah? So when you've found the position, if you want to come forward any amount, if that helps you to feel that sensation on this outer hip. Some people might be folded completely down towards the floor, or you might be up quite high like me. Maybe you don't even need to come forward any amount to feel that sensation. Everybody's different and everybody's welcome in this practice. So you make the adjustment that works for you, but remember the area of sensation is this outer hip. So that's what you want to feel. So closing your eyes down, relaxing the muscles around the eyes, the jaw and the belly. And then allowing yourself to feel this inhale and notice your exhale. Maybe you want to imagine this breath coming all the way down into this area where you're experiencing sensation. And notice your exhale, and if you can, release tension as you exhale. Notice what's arising. How much can you feel? Nice. Using your hands, bringing that torso back up slowly. Releasing that leg, but don't get rid of the kink in that leg, yeah? We're going to come forward into our swan or laying into that reverse swan position. So you choose the version of the posture that serves you, either bringing this leg around behind you and coming into your swan. You might want to be nice and upright so that you can work with the energy of the lungs as well. Or if you're coming into that lying version, having that leg popped across the thigh or pulling that thigh in or straightening up the leg, whatever serves you so that you can feel that sensation in that outer hip. So I'm coming back into the swan so I don't allow you to hang out for too long today. So really deepening that sensation in that area and noticing how much you can allow yourself to feel. The last strong posture of this class, can you remain with the sensation? Notice your inhale and feel your exhale. Release, let go. Use your prana, your life force. Breathe into the sensation and exhale the tension. Or whatever else is arising for you. Release it on the exhale. A few more breaths here. Allow yourself to feel. It's just sensation. Notice it. Right, when you're ready, slowly unraveling. Coming down towards the earth, either on your belly or on your back, whatever serves you right now. Releasing yourself down into that element of metal. Allow yourself to be held, released. If it would feel good for you, just rock those hips a little bit from side to side, only if that feels good for you. And then let's push back, and for those of you on the belly, push back. We're going to come into the final yin posture for the class, which is a beautiful posture to open up through the lungs. So if you have a bolster, you might want to align your bolster. If you have a blanket, you could roll up the blanket and use it the same way I'm going to use the bolster. But this element, this posture is all about just opening up completely through this front side of the body. So legs are straight in the posture, but of course, if you want to pop your soles of your feet together, if that feels good for you, you can. Otherwise, extending the legs straight out. And I'm going to lay down onto my bolster, but remember, I want to protect my lower back, so just curling that pubic bone to that navel as I come on down and bringing those arms out to the side. Now, for some people, this doesn't feel good on the neck to be like this, so if you need a little additional prop underneath the head, please take it. Because the whole purpose of this posture is to feel this beautiful openness across the chest. So find the variation of this posture that serves you to feel that deep openness through the chest. No pressure anywhere else in the body. So even if you're just lying on the earth with your arms out to the side, heart center wide open. And even in this position, take in the inhale and release completely that exhale until that inhale becomes automatic. Take your time with your breath. Relax any muscles that you're holding onto. Allow yourself to feel the sensation of your breath and feel that opening in the chest. Even though everything is shifting and moving and changing. Making ourselves vulnerable to possibility. Notice what you feel. And when you're ready, take your time. Maybe rolling to the side and coming off your bolster. And come into your Shavasana, your final resting pose for the class. So you might want to pop your bolster underneath the back of your knee. You might want to cover yourself with a blanket if you're not in 26 degrees monsoon. Or whatever it is that makes you feel the most comfortable. So come into your version of Shavasana. So your Shavasana should see you being surrendered completely down into this element of metal. Connecting down into that deep, deep earth. And once you've found that position, there is nothing more for you to do. Grabbed my phone so I can read a little Jeff Foster for you while you're surrendered down to the earth. Nothing more for you to do. The courage to heal. Healing does not always look or feel good, pretty, or kind. True healing nearly always involves the reopening of old wounds, the death of illusion, and a courageous confrontation with our pain. One of the most unhelpful myths we have inherited from our culture is that healing is supposed to feel good. No, not always. Sometimes our discomfort actually intensifies as the darkness emerges into the light, as unconscious material makes its way into awareness, as our old illusions burn up. Pain is not wrong, a mistake, or a sign that we are doomed. Pain may actually indicate that our healing process is intensifying, not stalling, that we are actually more awake and sensitive than ever, more deeply connected with the here and now, less willing to look away. There is such a tendency in our culture to avoid discomfort of any kind, distract ourselves from it, label it as wrong or negative or even unspiritual, meditate or medicate it away. Much of our Western medicine is geared towards the removal of symptoms, the silencing of disruption, the numbing of chaos, and the journey towards some socially accepted sense of normality. But sometimes, friend, we no longer have any interest in returning to normal. The normal was the problem, not the solution. The status quo needed to shift. It was unstable and false. Old dreams were keeping us trapped, limited. Sometimes our normality needs to break open into chaos and crisis. Our pain, sorrow, frustration, exhaustion, and doubts need to be felt more fully than ever before. The heart needs to break open more completely. Our pain is not a punishment from a judgmental God, nor a mistake in a broken universe, nor evidence of our failure and unenlightened ignorance, but a profoundly alive spiritual teaching. Witness Jesus on the cross. The device of his torture became his ultimate invitation to healing. The rediscovery of his own unbreakable presence prior to his human incarnation, prior to time itself. Consider the possibility that within your suffering, you are being given an invitation to let go, to wake up from the dream of normality, to embrace life in all its brokenness and wonder, to fall in love with where you are, to come out of the story of past and future and turn towards the present moment, the place where you stand. Let the winds blow. Let the tempests rage. Let all that is false be purified. Let all that is dead remain dead. Let life explode where you are. You are only being invited to a deeper healing, even though it feels like pain, even though the heart is tender and raw, even though you cannot yet feel your tomorrows. Slowly start to move your fingers and your toes. Stretch the body out where it feels like to you it needs to have a stretch. When you're ready, rolling over onto your right side. Take a moment here to reconnect with your breath. Notice how your breath is moving through your body. And then when you're ready, bringing yourself up to a seated position, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe rolling those shoulders back and down, feeling that beautiful open heart center. Closing the eyes just for a moment. Noticing the breath. How is your breath moving in your body now, and how is that different from when you started this class 1 hour ago? Just notice. Maybe it's not. Maybe nothing has changed. Also, no problem. Bring those hands up to the heart center. Bow the head to the heart. Acknowledging that sometimes the wisdom of the heart is greater than the wisdom of the head. Namaste.